Coburg Football Club General Manager Sebastian Spagnuolo here. In 1970, Coburg Football Club, captain coached by Mick Erwin, went on to win the VFA Division 2 Premiership and gain promotion back into Division 1. In 2020, we celebrate the 50th year anniversary of that famous season in our club's history. And although we'd have loved to have a reunion at the club and invite everyone along, COVID-19 has seen that opportunity disappear for now. However, with the help of modern technology, we were able to still find a creative way to get the guys together and have a great time sharing stories from the 1970 season and that Premiership victory. The video you're about to watch was captured via the Zoom application, which many of the guys were using for the first time. If you can bear the non-studio sound quality and some issues regarding the use of the mute button, please watch on as the team have their virtual Coburg Football Club 1970 Premiership 50th year reunion. I hope you enjoy the stories and go the Lion. Yeah, welcome everyone to the 1970 Coburg Footy Club VFA Division 2 50-year reunion. So tonight we're joined by our Premiership heroes from the side. So without further ado, mate, guys, we'll get stuck into it. So bit of background. So we'll start with Mick Erwin. So the club, Coburg Footy Club, got relegated 1968 after only a 2-win season in Division 1, and back then obviously there were 2 divisions. So we found ourselves in Division 2, Mick, and in 1969 you were appointed captain coach of the Coburg Footy Club at the age of 25, turning 26 after 62 games at VFL level with Collingwood and Richmond. In 1969, we played 18 games. We won 16 and lost 2 in the home and away. And then unfortunately went out in straight sets. So maybe that's a perfect opportunity to set us up for 1970, Mick. So at the end of 69, we hear about the planning that went into 1970.
Yeah, well, in 69, I think we finished on top of the ladder. And Williamstown finished 4th because they'd had a lot of injuries. If you remember, I think it was Dallas Patterson and Papley and those guys had it. There was about 2 others were out injured, and Papley and Patterson had a car accident. So that cost them games during the year. The difficult thing I found about it, I learned from it, thank God, was that we won. You'd have those pressure games, you get beaten by Sunshine. The next week you would play, I don't know, whoever, one of the sides, and win by 10 or 15 goals. So blokes that you might have a bit of doubt on, you give them another chance, and all of a sudden they bob up because the mob we played couldn't play. So my first year as coach, I never experienced that before, such a one-sided comp, I would say. Probably, arguably, there were only 4 or 5 teams in it, and the gap between that was massive. So, as I said, we won enough games to win, to finish on top. Sunshine beat us in the second semi, pretty convincingly, I would say, probably 4 or 5 goals. And then we come up against Willie in the preliminary final, who had all those players back. So arguably, they were probably the best side in it. And had they have had those injuries, they would have finished on top. I mean, because they actually went on and won it, and actually when in 1970, they played in the grand final in First Division, which shows you how good a team they had. They didn't lose any players. So they beat us. We did much better against them than we did against Sunshine. Whether we could have beaten Sunshine, I don't know. So we went out in straight sets and then had to sit down at the end of the year and have a look at what happened and where the gaps were and what we needed to do to improve it. An interesting side thing that when I took over coaching in 69, I implemented a pretty heavy pre-season training after seeing what happened in 68. And halfway through the pre-season, just before the practice matches, we only had 26 players because a lot of the players from 68 wouldn't hack what we were trying to do, Remember the president come saying to me that if you keep going on like this, we won't have a side. Well, I guess I had to answer, we've got to recruit better, and secondly, those guys that are gone, they were never going to win us a flag anyway. So
yeah, and it's interesting
to cut a long story short, we played the first practice match, which in those days you played among yourself.
Yep.
We only had 13 aside. to be
There
able
you
to
go.
play practice matches.
Interesting you say that, you know, at points it got to that 26 players that you had available. There was a Coburg Courier article about the 1970 pre-season where they had 90 to 100 footballers training 3 nights a week at Coburg City Oval. And this is a direct quote from the paper. In an attempt to make Coburg the fittest side in VFA's Division 2 in 1970, including the fantastic work by Wayne McLachlan, who at the end of between 1969 and 70 lost 2 stone and got really fit. So well done, Wayne, and with also Maury and Trevor, Leigh, Dennis Jenkins also showing great fitness. So that was one article that definitely highlighted and saw what we were trying to do and what the club was trying to do at that time.
Yeah, well, 100 players, is that right, Sully? Do we have 100 players training? I don't think so.
Over 5 years.
Anyway, it might have been the under-19s and the reserves and everything all together. I don't know.
I think so.
It's a good story. Don't let the truth get in the road of a good story.
That's it.
Certainly had a, you know, it's right. We had a much better roll up and we'd learned a lot from, and, you know, like, you know, just a bit of a history of, and when Sully would, Barry would have been more involved in this. Now, he had the ground taken from him, you know, North Melbourne took over the ground. So when I went there in 68, you know, I thought to myself, what the f done, you know? Because it was just, not just the ability of the players, we knew we could do something about that, but it was just down. I've never seen a footy club so down. The committee were fighting or arguing with trying to get back on, or just got back on the ground with the council. A lot of the committee had gone and got on the council to get us back, but it was as flat. Purse was on his, you know, at the end of his coaching. He'd been a wonderful player and a wonderful man, coach and a wonderful man. So it was pretty, it was pretty down. To me, that was more the credit to these guys being able to pull themselves with me out of that than just recruiting ability, because, you know, ability is one thing, but this desire and togetherness and fanaticism and love of the club or generating enthusiasm, as we all know, is far more important
100%.
in a game and in big games. And that was the thing that concerned me most in 68 and also through the middle of 69. I just felt we didn't quite have it, but probably didn't recognise it enough. Not that we could have done much about it anyway.
So then, as you said, those practice matches against yourselves, there were a couple of fantastic performances along the way as we built up towards round one. And one article mentioned about the Coburg, the final list for the season, with some players returning, obviously with McLachlan, yourself, Trevor Price, Leigh, Johnny Morrison, etc., Bobby Kirkman, Jimmy Sullivan, etc., and then some new players. So it mentions the new recruits here that did join the club before in the pre-season of 1970. So Kerion Lawson, Ivan Marsh. We've also got Peter McCarthy and Brian Hepper. So maybe talk to us about those as well, Mick. Were they? I know some of them are on the call tonight here, but were they targeted players from yourself and the committee? Or
before we get on to that,
yep,
I forgot to mention, in 69 you won the list, the JJ Jimmy, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, what a magnificent effort that was with a side that wasn't quite there. If it wasn't for Jimmy, we wouldn't have been anywhere near it. And I don't think, has anybody ever done what you've done, mate?
No.
The Liston and the JJ Phil?
And the Gillen.
and the Gillen. Yeah.
Has anybody done that?
No, nobody's done that. And
Because I keep telling everybody no one has, and I thought I better check it.
And no one, and with the way footy is now, no one ever will either. So what a record!
No, well, not now, but just a magnificent effort, and Jimmy was, you know, a superstar for us. So I just wanted to mention that, you know, that was an important part of us feeling that we had it enough, and having the Phil trophy winner in our club, even though we went out in straight sets, was a mixed feelings, but excitement for Jimmy. Well, then into the recruiting side of it, we got Kerion and the boys, and Rossi, you were there in 69 still, weren't you? Must have had a few injuries.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was recruited down there in '69. Yep.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we started with Marshy and these guys. We sort of targeted what we wanted, and the Spoody Brian Hepper was just a superstar as far as running and kicking the whole bloody bit quick that we needed. We played a practice match against Paran in 1970. Who went on and won the flag in First Division. I think, what did you kick, Ross, 7 or 8 or something on?
By half time on Ian Sinman.
I've got it here. It says Sporton kicked 6 for Coburg, and that was against Paran. Sorry, yeah. That was the final practice.
I think he promptly retired.
Yeah. So Ross retired Ian Sinman. And we probably won them a flag because they went on and won the flag from there.
In that practice match, that was I remember sitting in the stand with Maury and Johnny, and we were going through the list of Paran. The 15 of their 18 players had played VFL or AFL football. And we thought, geez, how are we going to beat this bloody mob? I think players that played in the Melbourne Premiership side in '64 were playing for them. There were players who played in the '66 and Kilda Premiership. And we ended up, we had you, Ivan and Jimmy really as our stars, and the rest were basically the kids from the under-19s and reserves from Carlton, North and Essendon, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we ended up beating them.
Yeah.
You got to remember, though, a lot of those VFL players went to VFA with dads.
Plenty of those throughout our career, Jimmy, wasn't there?
Yeah, but there were a lot of VFL that guys that come to VFA couldn't hack it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I read it on the way down and thought it was going to be easy.
Couldn't get back.
They just couldn't hack it. They'd been smothered in other areas. So that was the start. So we were looking good and feeling pretty good.
Yep.
And I guess from there, given what we've talked about in '69, I made up my mind that I was going to mark down the top 6 or 8 players in every big game that we played. So that when I got to the finals, I knew who I wanted to be in a trench in the wall with. Yep. Not worried about what I'd gone through the year before, because if you look at some of the scores in that season, I mean, '69 was bad enough. In the massive wins that we had, incredible.
We're gonna actually go through them now. So the pre-season's done. The squad's been selected. Just before we actually get to round 1, Robbo, you're on the line, and looking at the squad, I've got the final squad here. Can you tell us what it meant, Robbo, when it says that I've got it here to be considered when available? Geoff Robinson. So what did that mean back then?
1970.
Yeah.
That I was actually building at the time. I was building houses on my own with an apprentice, and I was actually up in Seymour during the week. So I was commuting to Seymour. I was staying up there in a caravan or in the house that we were building at the time, and I was coming back on the weekend. So
there you go. So
yeah.
So from the start of the season to be listed as to be considered when available and end up playing 13 games and winning a premiership, it must have been a pretty whirlwind experience then.
Only 13 games.
That's what I've got, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
13 games and 3 goals we've got you as.
Well, Robbo's usually a day late for everything he goes to.
I was driving second-hand cars at the time, so I had a few issues with those.
Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
Fantastic. So getting into the season then. So what we'll do now, we'll go through the first 9 games results, and at that halfway mark, I'm happy to open up to the floor. Really, tell us how the feeling was at that halfway. So round 1 at Coburg City Oval, we had a convincing 106-point win over Port Alec. And for me, as someone that wasn't around back then, I just love seeing these scores, like you said, Mick, because I wish footy was like that now. So round 2, Camberwell, 121-point win. Round 3, Coburg City Oval against Sunshine. We had a 51-point win, which must have felt good, like you said, considering the year before what Sunshine did to us. Round 4 at Northcote, we won by 48, so just a lazy 8-goal win there. So by round 4, our smallest winning margin was 8 goals. Round 5, we played Box Hill at Box Hill and had a 15-point loss, which we'll talk about soon. We bounced back from that loss and beat Brunswick, who were in the top 4 at the time, by 101 points, just to really put a dent in the local rivals. We go down to Frankston and had an 82-point win, then to Werribee for a 54-point win, and then at the halfway mark, we beat Caulfield by 107 points at Coburg with an amazing score of 30 goals, 19, 199 to 13 goals, 14, 92. So, like I said, some massive scores, and Rossi, you had a big hand in those. So at the halfway mark, how were you feeling? Were you sitting on top of the goal kicking at that point, Ross?
Quite possibly. I know I kicked a 9 against Caulfield in the game you just mentioned, but I'm not sure about the others.
Yeah.
But we were cruising at the time. Yep.
And amazing big scores at the time. What was it like to actually be a full forward back then when it was big scoring?
Got it on a silver platter on occasions, Sebastian. Yeah.
And
it was good.
I don't know if you want to name
Jimmy, Johnny Morrison. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know if you want to name any individuals, but who was the best player to lead out to where you knew you were just going to get it?
You put me on the pump there.
Wouldn't be Maurice Gale, would it?
It wouldn't have been Maurice Gale. He would never pass.
It would never be Robbo.
No, Jimmy and Murray were good to be in front of.
Yeah, and the person you just mentioned. So Jimmy, Mick touched on at that point there. You were probably one of the more experienced Coburg players, given that you were around when we did get the ground back from North Melbourne and finding our identity, or getting back to our identity again. At that halfway mark, how were you feeling, mate, about the whole season that we were part of?
Pretty amazing, because there's only one side that beat us, and I wait till the second half of the season because I spoke to Mick about it. We're only worried about sunshine, and so I was pretty confident, especially when you had guys like Ross in the forward line, and also like Doc was on the half forward flank. I don't know how many goals Doc kicked that year, but it was about 3 times as many I kicked. So, but I was confident that year compared to the year before, because we hadn't beat Sunshine, but this year we had beat Sunshine.
Yeah, and
Box Hill.
And over to Doc now. So your first year at the club, so you played 20 games that year. You kicked 45 goals. Halfway through the season, were you thinking, geez, this is pretty easy, or how are you feeling at that point?
I was enjoying it. There, as mentioned before, a lot of silver service from a very good team. I found having more opportunities going to a 16-minute side too. There was a bit more space, and you had teammates that just looked after you, and it was a dream, really. I really enjoyed it.
And no, fantastic. Thank you, Doc.
You were doing your whatever you call it, internship then, or?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was still studying, and I think I had to go down to Geelong for a couple of weeks at the Geelong Hospital, and I trained with Geelong then too, if I recall.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a big gig, you know, because you come in with his eyes blurry, been working all night. Probably other times been pissing up all night and playing.
Yeah, that's.
He's all I didn't know. He's all I didn't know, Doc, but I knew.
We used to play cards.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, cards were good.
That was part of discipline. That was part, wasn't it, Doc? Part of discipline.
Be the doctor, I tell
They
you.
all were good.
That's right. And Ivan, at this point here, obviously you're also another recruit to the club, having come out of VFL footy yourself with Footscray. So how did you find going from VFL to VFA Division 2 at the time, and how were you feeling about the season at that point, at the halfway mark?
Well, it's quite easy to leave Footscray because I wasn't getting a fair go there. They wanted to make me captain of the seconds and teach all the young blokes. And I didn't want to play seconds football. And then Mick got in touch with me, plus about 5 other, like in our comp. And as soon as I spoke to Mick and what Mick told me and everything, I thought, that's the club I'll be going to.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ivan. And what about Wayne? Wayne, you're at the other end to Ross. What was it like being at the other end, trying to defend and keep the other team's key forwards quiet? Well, that's okay. I'll ask another defender the same question. Leigh. So, Leigh Tytler, in the season, lost one game. What was your memory of that one against Box Hill? We lost by 15 points. Any memories of that one?
Don't ask me my memory of it.
I don't remember a lot of the games. I just played my part, I guess, and yeah, I don't remember it. Well, I don't remember the grand final much at all.
Right.
But as for games during the year, I wonder how people say, "Oh, I kicked 6 then, or 9 that day," or I just played my part.
Oh, fantastic, mate. Hopefully tonight we can bring back some memories. And
Now, to answer your question, Seb.
yes,
Forward reject.
At my end of the ground, we had to go home and have a warm shower every night so we wouldn't get the flu.
right. There you go.
It was very good. Having been smashed by Sunshine the year before, when we beat them, that was the best feeling.
Especially out there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that was
agree with you.
probably the hardest away ground I've ever played on.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah,
Biggest
I
one.
only saw half of that game. I
Exactly.
was taken to hospital in the ambulance.
Right.
Oh, okay.
What, Uber? No Uber then or what?
You know who got you, Leigh?
Yeah, Ibrahim.
Oh,
Johnny.
he's got a few people in his time, yeah.
Yeah.
He got me in the second semi.
There you go.
That's a few times, Mick, I reckon.
There
From
you
memory.
go. So,
That game against Sunshine in '69, we only lost by 10 points in the second semi.
Yeah. Right. I still don't.
131, and I think we're coming back in that game.
Yeah, we were. You missed a few. You dropped a couple of marks.
First time out of Coburg.
No, but they were. Yeah. Anyway, that's
First
it.
time out of Coburg, they put us on TV instead of Division 1.
right.
And it was the only time they ever played Division 2 over Division 1 because they beat us by about 11 goals.
Wow. There you go. And
Let's get back to 70.
yeah. So Maury Gale in 1970. Tell us about similar questions, mate. So halfway mark of the season, and you joined the club the year before. So how was it at this time around at the halfway mark? Anyway, feeling pretty confident.
Oh, I think the feeling around the club was pretty good. I was lucky enough to go there or train with Coburg 2 years before that when I was playing with Kerion up at Castlemaine in the Bendigo League. And then 69 pretty much saw us. I think Mick said, just a couple of players short. We weren't a bad team. And the recruiting that was done over 70, you could see the gaps were filled. It was a very even team. In fact, I was looking at the stats before. Mick probably wouldn't believe that 36 players were used in this, who played a senior game in that year. It was a very even team. So if someone got injured, a good player would come back in.
Yeah.
Even Peter McCudden kicked 4 goals at full forward one day.
Did he get a game?
Yep.
So, fantastic.
Colin Huff kicked 8.
Yeah, I have noticed. I got the games record, and you're right, 100% that 36 players were used that season. And while some played all of them, there were many that came in and played parts during the season. So then, from the coach's perspective, Mick, like you've mentioned, and it's been mentioned here, that Sunshine was a great win. The Box Hill loss, was it something that you thought that'll come back to us and we'll get another crack at them at the pointy end?
Yeah, well, Box Hill was it. The first one was Box Hill. And it was just a mud quagmire.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was a few things happened. So Kirky and I had a bit of a disagreement on the ground, and he walked off. That didn't help. Yeah, and we just had a dud day. I played shit house.
Yeah,
We just couldn't get going. Most of the game we looked like we were going to get to them, and I think we felt that, probably including myself. Just a matter of time. Wasn't as black and white as that, or as conscious as that. For some, and we played like it. That was no way known that I just walked off that ground. But I'm not even going to talk about that. We'll just forget it.
Yeah.
There was no one,
Fantastic.
that was us.
I'll tell you why we knew we beat them. That particular day, it was underwater. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
It was underwater. Before the game, Mick came up to me, and I'm 175 centimetres, and Mick said, "You can play centre forward today. Peter McCarthy can't play in the wet." And I think that was the only game for that year that I got votes. It was Quagmire. I can only kick 45 minutes. I must have got it 35 times. So we couldn't win. So I knew we beat them.
How come we didn't win?
Because I couldn't get to the full forward because I couldn't kick far enough.
So it was a good move. It was a great.
No, I was no good in the wet.
I didn't know I was that smart.
But after that game, I knew we were certainties.
There you go. So we've turned for home, and our lowest score at the halfway mark for the year was actually 106. So we're scoring well going to the second half of the year. So round 10, 78-point win at Mordialloc. Round 11, 104-point win at over Camberwell again. Round 12, the Sunshine team, we won by 15 points at Skinner. Round 13, we beat Northcote by 40 points. Then we had Box Hill. That was our lowest score for the year. We only scored 61 points. We lost by 2 points at Coburg. We beat Brunswick then by 4 goals at Brunswick. We beat Frankston by 95. We then beat Werribee by 75. And in the last home and away game for the season, we beat Caulfield by 10 points at Caulfield. So 2 losses for the year, both to Box Hill. We talked about the first one. The second one where we only scored 61 points, Mick. What was, tell us about that one.
Well, I can remember that game. I had probably the worst game I've ever had playing for Coburg. I played with full up with the flu, not an excuse or reason. We just felt shit out. I don't remember it that much, but we just must have had one of those ordinary days. It was heavy, but it was nothing like, what it was when they beat us the first time. We just had one of those days. I guess when you look at those scores, somewhere along the line, we were going to think we were better than what we were subconsciously, or we were due for a dud one.
And
hey, Sam.
Yeah, and
I
Karen.
don't know what any of the other guys think about it.
Sam, you'll probably find that it was actually at Box Hill in the Quagmire, wasn't it, Coburg? We played Box Hill first at home, and the second round was at Box Hill when it was a Quagmire.
Oh, was it the second one, was it?
Well, yeah, and that makes sense because it was 61 to 63, which out of all the scores I've gone through, it was definitely the lowest scoring game for the season. So, so what about anyone else? Anyone got any thoughts on that second one? Or even any of those games that have just gone through the back end of the season?
Caulfield game, Seb.
Yep, the last one.
The last game of the year, I reckon we had at least 4 or 5 players pull out on the morning of the match. And I reckon we had thirds players sitting on the bench. It was that bad.
Yeah.
They'd played before us, and we had the flu went through the club. And I reckon we had 4 or 5 pulled out on the morning of the game. It was a Saturday game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a Saturday.
Remember that? I didn't remember that part.
Yeah. And they kicked 30 goals in the last quarter.
So, how many did they kick? 14, wasn't it, Wayno?
Yeah, Mickey Maguire reminds me of that every Friday night down here when I have a beer with him. I think he kicked 6 of them.
Yeah, they still didn't win.
Did we win?
Shane O'Sullivan kicked 4 or 5.
We won though, didn't we?
Yeah, we won by 10 points.
10 points, yeah. But early, was that second time around, Wayne?
Yes.
Yeah.
We belted them early.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we're on the eve of the finals. Now, before we get to those finals games, Barry, Jess, if you just unmute yourself. Now, to this point, Barry, you've played 2 games, both as reserve. You've come off the bench to help the side. At this point, before finals started, where were you thinking were you in the plans at that point? Or I know the coach is in the call, but how were you thinking about the season?
Well, Mick will have to explain how he picked me, but my history at Coburg, I did my knee when I went to Coburg in '66, and after the first few games, I did my knee, and back in those days, if you did your knee, you'd be put to the scrap heap. So I hung around and did this and did that to try and get fit. And anyway, I came back halfway through the first season and played a few games. Second season, same thing similar happened again, and I think then it might have been a couple of years later, but anyway, in 1970 I did my knee again, and I spent a lot of time more time with Pop Sporton in Brunswick. The old bloke that we all used to go to see to get our legs with knees fixed, and I didn't come back. I didn't start training until halfway through the season, I think. I hope I've got the right years right. But I ended up winning the Clem Hill Trophy in the seconds after playing 7 games in the seconds, and then I was still hanging around the club when the finals were on. So
right place, right time.
Yeah. Football is about highs and lows, plenty of lows, and there's plenty of highs, and I'd put that down to a high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good on you, mate.
Absolutely. So we get into the finals, Mick. We've been drawn against Sunshine at Toorak Park in the semi-final. We have a convincing win there by 66 points. So talk us through that one. That must have been very special considering the year before's disappointment to get the monkey off the back and win a final.
Yeah, look, it was. We really, probably the best game we played for the year, in my opinion. Don't worry about the scores or whatever. You just know when the guys are ready. And particularly looking back on 69, which we won't go over again, I just felt that we were nervous and apprehensive, and probably just didn't have that little bit of talent or extra talent that we needed. We didn't have someone like Ivan dominating the ruck, which he did all year. Just an absolute sensation for us, and control that around the ball stuff. So he was in top form all year, but particularly in the final. And I felt pretty comfortable, probably, arguably, or not, definitely after the game. I thought later on in the night when I'm having a beer at home, I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to get these blokes up for the grand final? We've just beat them by, 10 goals, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, 11.
11 goals. How am I going to get these blokes up to the grand final? So you start thinking about all of these teams, a lot of teams that have gone through the year and not lost a game. We'd at least lost a couple. And then lost the grand final. And if it was played over and over, they'd win it. So those sort of negative things start popping into your mind. And so I had to sort of really work on how I was going to keep the guys up there. And I didn't do anything different. And I think that was pretty important, and probably just pushed a bit harder early in the year, and without being negative, touched on, well, you know what happened last year. We didn't want to labour on that. But let's never, and we did say that after that year, that was never going to happen again, and that's basically what I worked on. This is never going to happen again. And we're one game away from being rewarded for what we really deserve.
Fantastic. And that game was, obviously, there was an incident with Normie Brennan, who couldn't make it on the call tonight. But Maury, having a chat with you last week, you did get me to mention, or you wanted me to mention, was it attempted striking or attempted slapping from Norm?
He said he slapped him.
Right.
The charge was attempted striking, but it was attempted slapping. So he got 4 weeks.
Right. 4 weeks. There you go. So obviously back then...
Was it attempted, Maury?
That's what it said in the book, attempted striking.
Yeah.
There you go. And so Mick, with that, team selection, and obviously we've heard from Barry already. Was that the move, and was it a lay down for you, or did you agonise over that one?
No, it was a lay down. Barry worked and stayed with us and the whole bit. And, we just needed, in those days, that's what you did. You played 2 ruckmen, and Barry wasn't even a second thought. He was straight in.
Fantastic.
He deserved it.
Fantastic. So you had the week off in between, so that would have meant that Sunshine v Box Hill would have been. Did many of you get down to that game and do the scouting for who you could be playing in the granny?
Well, obviously, I was there.
Yep.
Well, I was there, and Mick should remember this. Well, Mick, and after the game, when Box Hill won, I said to Mick, "Do you remember this, Mick?" I said, "I don't think we can get beat." And Mick said, "Oh, don't say that." Do you remember that, Mick?
Yeah.
After the game, I said, "I don't think we can get beat." Because Sunshine was their only worry ever. We beat them both times.
You can imagine one of your players saying that to the coach, you know. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah, but I was vice captain, that's all right.
Well, they don't say that. Having said that, and I'll let the other guys talk, but I was wrapped that they won because I wanted those pricks. They're the only side that beat us. And my problem of fronting up after beating Sunshine by 11 goals was gone. And I had absolutely every bit of ammunition. These are the only side that beat us during the year. And by God, we want them. We want them and we want them bad. I wanted to play them the next day.
Yeah.
Because those 2 days that we played were low. They weren't just defeats. They were low parts, the lowest parts of the season, and probably one of the two lowest games from a point of view of feelings that I ever coached.
There you go.
I was wrapped that they won. I wanted them, and I wanted them bad.
Yep, no, that's amazing, mates. And Wayne, I'm going to you because I reckon, no disrespect to anyone else, I reckon you'll know as well. Previous to this, when was the last time Coburg were in a grand final?
1928, I think. I don't think they played in the grand final. They in
40 years.
40 years.
They finished on top of the ladder and went out in straight sets.
Right. So.
And then 65 was really bad. I don't think they played in the grand final after 28.
So for yourself and for Jimmy and for those that were part of that journey getting the ground back, like we mentioned before, what was the week like in and around Coburg? Were there people wanting to get near you guys? Did you feel like superstars? How was that build up?
Oh, the lead up? No, the lead up was very low key, mate.
Yeah.
Unless you lived in Coburg or in that area. In those days, if you went to Coburg Market, the Kilduffs gave you all your groceries for free and your green groceries. But apart from that, it was pretty low key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kerion, you grew up in Coburg, so it must have been a proud moment for you to be representing the club and the town that you grew up in.
Oh, it was, because as you said, born and bred and living beside the Coburg ground. And when Nick recruited me, it was exciting to come along and play. And when you think of it, I often think about the players we had: Brian Elvery, Wayne McLachlan, the backline, Geoff Robinson, Leigh Tytler, a midfield like Bobby Kirkman and Jimmy Sullivan, forwards like Peter McCarthy and Doc Epper, full forward like Ross Sporton, rovers like Maurice Gale and Johnny Morrison, one of the best roving combinations Coburg's ever had, a superstar in Ivan Marsh and Mick Erwin. We certainly had a good side, and it was a wonderful side to play in. And I was like Jimmy, I think, after that second semi-final win, I didn't think anyone would get past us in the grand final, mate. Very exciting.
So we get to the grand final and got Box Hill, as we've mentioned. The grand final team, I'll read it out from the back line: Elvery, McLachlan, Jess, halfback Jones, Robinson, Tytler, in the centre Kirkman, half forward Sullivan, McCarthy, Hepper, forward line Erwin, Sporton, Morrison, Ruck Division, Marsh, Lawson, Gale, and coming off the bench, Pricey and Nickel. So Pricey couldn't make it tonight. I was going to talk to him about how he was a young fella in 70, won another one in 74, and then a Division 1 Premiership in 79. But just what comes through when us younger, our generation does the reading about it is that, just a fantastic team that you guys were part of, and very envious our current day crop, and we can't wait to one day get to those same sort of levels. So grand final day itself, we beat Box Hill. We beat by 5 goals, pretty comprehensive victory. Mick, how did the day go? Did the day go to plan? Were there any times during the game where it looked in doubt? We talked about obviously the confidence in the group, but how did it go?
Oh, look, we started off really, really well.
Can I say something, Mick?
Yes, go Kerion.
The nervous. I just remember the nervous before the grand final, and Mick had given us one of his speeches, which was, you know, we all felt good afterwards when we were on our way out. But I remember the first minute, I got a beautiful pass from Jimmy, and I kicked a goal, and Mick ran up to me and said, "That's what we wanted, son. That's what we wanted. We wanted a good start." And I think everybody in the side thought, well, gee, we're off and running. They felt good from then on, and we won by 5 goals. Yeah.
Ross was on fire, and Peter McCarthy probably played one of his best games. We all know what Peter could do, but he just didn't know when he felt like doing it.
He was quick for a big bloke.
We got off to a good start, but the last quarter they come at us a bit, and we had to sort of ease up a bit and concentrate. But we hung in there. I won't say hung in there. We steadied, and ended up running away with it again. And the further that game went, I think they got within 3 goals of us, didn't they, Kerion, or Wayne? Did they
Something like that, yeah.
2 or 3 goals of us?
You steadied them though, Mick. You steadied them.
The second half definitely looked a little more goal to goal. Where second half it was 9 goals to 8 in the second half. So yeah, they must have mounted some sort of challenge, but you guys were definitely strong.
Yeah, well, I think probably with about halfway through the last quarter, they kicked a couple in a row, and looked like they had a bit of a run on. We started to fumble and rush a bit. So I
went off for a rest.
Put myself back down in the back line to talk to the guys and steady the ship, and then we changed the game around, took control of it again, kicked a couple, and the further that we were gone, then we'd broken their hearts by then. The further it would have gone, we would have won by more. But during that stage, like the guys disciplined and stuck to their guns, and Ivan was fantastic the way he just carried the rope around at that stage, and made sure that we got first use of it, or made sure that they didn't, and that was a pretty important part of the game. I'd say probably the 20-minute mark of the last quarter.
And was there, looking at the scores, a fellow by the name of Barnett for Box Hill kicked 6, and they had a few other goal kickers. Were there any players in the Box Hill side that you wanted any of your boys to put some time into in a really concerted effort?
Yeah, well, before the game, not really that much, but certainly Barnett worried us a bit big at one stage, didn't he? He kicked a couple in a row. I don't know, how many did he kick for the game?
He kicked 6. But 6.
How many?
6.
6, yeah. So he probably kicked 2 or 3 in that period that I'm talking about. So I just come down to the pig and I said, "Oh, we're here, and let's just settle and concentrate." And he didn't touch the ball after that.
And we had our own goal kickers as well, though. So Rossi, you bagged 5 in the grand final. Brian 4, McCarthy 3, Morrison 3, Kirkman 2, then Maury, Ivan, and Jimmy 1 each. So definitely a good spread of goal kickers. Back to Barry for a moment. So Barry, you've had those 2 games that we've talked about, been selected in the granny because of an opportunity that opened up for yourself. Yeah, did you feel ready to go, ready for the coach's call?
That's too far back to remember. I think I don't know. I must have. Yeah, well, it would have been a surprise, but it was a surprise that Norm got suspended too, I think, from that perspective. But I used to just like enjoying playing my footy. I had, as I said, footy's highs and lows, but that year, I think I probably missed about 8 or 9 games early in the year. Played a couple. I'm surprised to think I played 2 games in the first before I played in the finals, but before I played in the grand final. But I had problems with me knee along the way and all that sort of stuff. And I think I was there for 5 years at Coburg. I might have played 50 games in the ones, and I had 50 games watching the games because I had a crook knee. So, but anyway, I just hung in there, joined me, and I can't remember what happened, but I must have thought I had a chance because I kept trying. But I ended up playing 7 games in the twos after I come back from the league, getting better again, and I won the somewhere along the line I won the Clem Hill Trophy for the best and second. So I must have played about 9 or 10 games.
Yeah, that's probably what I got.
Yep, 100%. No, fantastic. And so we finished the year. We've won a flag. So who wants to jump in and talk about the feelings of winning one, but also then just how it felt around the club to deliver a premiership and get us back into Division 1?
We won the flag.
Sorry. Yep.
Because of these guys here and others that aren't there, of their courage, their commitment to excellence, and their self-discipline and physical toughness. Yeah, doesn't matter what level it is, you don't win any grand final without that. And I'll be forever indebted for them making me look good.
And Leigh?
I was going to say on the game grand final day, if I remember right, Mick's speech before the game, pep talk, was around the theme of 2 little boys. If one falls over or something, you get up, and I think there was a song about it.
My horse for 2. There's room on my horse for 2.
Something like that.
Yeah. There you go.
Got you there, Mick.
Anyone else? Feel free to jump in, guys.
Yeah, I like to jump in. The only premiership that I've ever played in and won, not counting a Lightning premiership, Mick, I count that as one as two, that Lightning premiership.
I've forgotten about that, Jimmy. Yeah.
72, sorry, 72 is it? Yeah. I count that as a premiership. But it's the only winning premiership I've ever played in. And also, I look at the stats from 70, since 70, Coburg have won 5 premierships. Is that right? 5 in total?
Since then?
Yes, it would be.
Counting that, we've only won 5.
Yep.
And the worst half-forward flanker that ever played for him. Got kicked 40 goals. I reckon I might have kicked about 12.
I've got it here.
But we had some great players.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you got Ivan Marsh, Ivan was tough. So all us little blokes can run around and not being frightened anymore, those sunshine brutes. Mick was a great leader. Mick was the nickname Fearless. I know he loves it now, but it's true. He was fearless. And he was a really, really good player. and also, what people don't know, how young was this side? I was the oldest. So I was 28 when we won the premiership. And there was no one older than me. Mick was younger than I was. So how young was the side that won it?
26.
I was close, Jim.
That was Peter McCudden. So Peter, we haven't gone to you because
Peter didn't play in the side though. He didn't play in the premiership side.
Yeah, that's right. So
and the other thing, 2 West Coburgs in the same side, 2 West Coburg players.
There you go. Yourself, right. But Geoff, what was that? 2 Strathmore boys?
2 Strathmore boys, myself and Brian Alvery. We came from Strathmore to Coburg.
Yep.
We played in that game as well.
Yep.
Jimmy Sullivan, didn't you play a premiership at West Coburg?
No. I went to Coburg when they won 2 in a row. I give them a bit of a chance.
Why?
We played in the practice game against Coburg.
Yeah.
You'd be right to go home.
They recruited me.
That was the year after we won a flag in 64.
We won about 3 in a row after I left. I was the bloody trainer till Mick come along.
So we've won the flag. Who wants to jump in next with the end of season trip? I've read about it, but tell everyone that's watching, where'd we go? We went to Hawaii, surely, didn't we? Vegas.
We went to the end of the world.
Where's that?
Broken Hill.
Broken Hill.
We went to Broken Hill for our end of season trip, and we played a game against Broken Hill, or was it against a combined
league?
And we promised we would never ever go again.
Sebastian, I'll tell you the story, Sebastian.
Our blokes vomiting all over the field.
Sebastian, I'll tell you the story.
Go for it, Jimmy.
I never got married. I got married in 70. I wouldn't go on the trip because the Kilduffs used to sponsor the club. And the Kilduff married a bloke called O'Brien who played for North Melbourne, and he coached Broken Hill. He said, where are you going for your trip? So they're going to Broken Hill, they're going to play a practice game. He said, don't go. I said, why? He said, I'll punch the shit out of you. You don't go. He said, I'm serious, I'll pick a combined side and they'll give it to you. So I can go.
That was as hot as hell.
Wish I hadn't have gone, Sally.
Did they really do that? Don't they whack you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We played on a car park.
And we slept in their club rooms, as I remember, on
Yeah, we
stretchers.
did.
You slept in
Yeah.
the club rooms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some
Really?
country hospitality.
Hey, Wayno,
They were big club rooms, so Tim.
Wayno, tell them about when you coached with Mick's jumper on, mate.
Yeah, I coached them for about half an hour. 3:15 in the morning, but it didn't matter much.
Brilliant. Any other? Yeah. Anyone else that has any stories about the season, guys? I've gone through every bit of information I've got, but I really want to open up for you guys to have a chat and let our listeners and our viewers know anything else about the 70 season, or even what that did to the club going back into Division 1 and what happened after that.
I just want to reiterate what I said earlier about the evenness of the team, and I think Karen mentioned it with basically mentioning nearly every player in the grand final as being a half decent player. But the guys that stepped in, like Jesse and I mean, a bloke like called Colin Huff came in one day when Ross was off, and he kicked 8 goals at full forward. Not too bad. So we had the depth, and I think that was the difference between that and the year before, Mick.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You remember that? 8 goals. I remember one of my favourite memories is seeing Doc Hepper streaming down the half-forward line, and that day you kicked 9, Ross. He kicked 8. So not too bad either.
Surely that's the day. Surely that's the day we kicked 30, was it?
That's it. Yeah, Doc kicked 8.
Doc's the best half-forward flanker I ever played with.
Yeah.
Well, he was well coached the year before.
So he's better than Phil, was he?
Yeah, 1969 West Heidelberg.
Correct.
Good one.
There you go. And Peter, although we can't see you, mate, you were assistant coach to Mick, but also played a few games in the season yourself, mate. So tell us about your memories of the 70 season, and thank you again for joining us, mate.
Yeah, no, well, I was an assistant coach in 70.
Right.
I think Jack Sullivan was. Is that right, boys?
Yep.
Right, but I think my major contribution for the year, I was elected or asked to be the players' representative on the committee during that season. It was my first year there. But halfway through the year after the Box Hill loss in the Quagmire, there's a fellow called Bobby Kirkman had a little to do with the coach. And I think he walked off the ground at 3/4 time or something, because he had been picking up his man, and Mick told him in no uncertain terms. And so, it was a bit threatening to the morale around the club. So later in the week, I sat him down at a cafe and had coffee with him in Coburg, and I think he came back the next training night and apologised to all the players. You remember that?
I've never heard Bobby apologise for anything. I think you got it mixed up, Pete.
The best way to make your dreams come true, Pete, is to wake up.
And
Get that all to you, Sally.
and at the end of the season,
Apologise.
at the end of the season, Bobby, who we just mentioned, he won the club best and fairest, also came second in the field medal in terms of the goal kicking. Rossi, as we mentioned, 62 goals up in only 12 games, so average 5 a game. Not too bad, mate. And Maury and Kieran as on ball as 54 and 52, so very different
How
time.
many handballs he had.
I averaged, would you like to see the stats, Mick? I averaged 4.5 or 4.4 handballs a game for the whole season.
That was your mother.
And 3.5 of them was in
That'd be right.
Where did the .4 finish up?
3.5 of them was in himself.
That's right, yeah. She counted the ones you gave to me.
Well, the Kevin Bartlett hand passes, hand passes out in front of yourself.
Hey, Murray, I gave Funny you was 60-9. Heaps. You owe me.
Thank you.
Hey, Wayno, we haven't heard about the 80-metre dash.
Oh, that was Wayne, wasn't it?
I'm just being a bit modest. So.
Yeah.
Just to break it up for a minute, nothing about... you're right, sorry.
Go on, go.
About 70. You see me footy jump I've got on?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, I wore that. That was from '67,
Right.
and you know why I got it? Because I played a game, and a guy knocked my jumper off. It was a mate of Lewis Moran. Heard of Lewis Moran?
Yeah.
Coburg said, no, you've taken it yourself. I had to buy my own bloody jumper. Coming around me $8 and winning $4 a loss.
You're all.
That's why I've got a jumper. And when I went to Claremont and all, I wore it there. I wore it to practice, but I've never got a jumper that Coburg ever gave me. So this is it.
Nice to know times haven't changed. If you ask our current players, they probably get the same complaint. No, fantastic, gentlemen. Anything else that you guys would like to add that maybe we haven't touched on? And it's been, from a personal perspective, it's been fantastic doing the reading and researching the season that you guys had, and from everyone involved at the Coburg Footy Club, we definitely congratulate you. And although we can't celebrate the way we'd love to in person, have a beer with each other, no doubt when times get back to normal, we will do that. And with the club at the moment, if I can jump into it, the club at the moment, we're going through a really exciting phase in terms of the redevelopment of our facility and our oval. No doubt all those problems that you guys face with the Merry Creek mud coming up in the centre and all of that stuff, we've been seeing that for a number of years now as well. But the Moreland City Council, they've put some works into it, and the state government are getting behind our footy club and the whole municipality. So really exciting phase. The future of our competition that we now play, and obviously it's gone from VFA to VFL, and now it could be, Coburg, we could be a bit of an interstate club as well, going to New South Wales and Queensland potentially. But, our current group really do respect the past, and under our current coach, Andrew Sturgis, we're part of our whole philosophy of, respecting the past and inspiring a better future. So, and you guys are definitely, part of that with the 1970 Premiership. So, unless there was anything else, guys, just from me to you, thank you so much for your time, and it's been great hearing all your stories.
I just want to say one thing to finish.
Yeah, go ahead, Mick.
Given what I've talked about tonight, about when I felt in 68 when I came there, and then 69, and I really, really did feel in 1970, if we didn't win after losing the year before, that Coburg would never get back into First Division. Now, whether it was a right feeling or not, but I'd been around enough in footy and enough in the VFA for those 2 years to know that we would have struggled to retain players and struggled to recruit players, and we've been going into our third year of Second Division. I reckon we turned these guys and others that aren't here, and some that didn't play in the grand final, they were all part of it, were a result of the club being able to be together and win those flags that they did coming on. There's no doubt in my mind, again, that club was stuffed in 68. We turned it around and gave them the opportunity.
One question. With the team that won the 70 grand final, if we hadn't gone out in straight sets the year before, where would you have placed us in First Division?
Say that again?
I said, if we hadn't gone out in straight sets last year, in 69, with the team you had in 70, where would that have placed us, in your opinion, in First Division in 70?
Probably, looking at maybe finishing, probably staving off relegation. I think we were better than that. But, we would have been down the bottom. Yeah. If you look at 1971, I think we finished probably a game and a half out of the final. And lost 3 or 4 games by under a goal or under 2 goals.
Yeah.
The committee said we were bad luck. It wasn't bad luck.
We beat Willie and Williamstown the first game.
Didn't have enough players to finish it off. Sorry?
We beat Willie at Williamstown the first game of 71.
We did. We beat them in the first game. They'd won the flag. We played them at Willie, first game of 71, and beat them. And we got injured during the year that really hurt us. We didn't have the depth for First Division. We had the depth for Second Division, but we just didn't have enough money to get those extra cup players from then.
Mick, don't forget.
Later on.
Don't forget, Mick, 72 won the Lightning Premiership with Big Port. 72. All day for nothing.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, we won. They had that lightning premiership. I've forgotten about that, Sally. We did win that.
So 72 was a good year winning a premiership.
Yeah.
We couldn't play sides out of the 4.
Yeah.
But the year after was a bad year.
It was for me.
73.
Yeah, well, 73.
Oh, that's life, mate. That's life.
Yeah,
Well, we had 70. That's good, boys.
Yeah.
Good.
This is a bit left field though, but Billy Jackson was a bloke that hung around the club back in those days, and he's not travelling. I heard he's not travelling too well at the moment. Any updates on him?
Kerion, have you heard about Billy Jackson's
I
health?
haven't spoken to him in about 3 weeks, but he was happy as they would have a chat about 3 weeks ago. All going along well. He is very ill, but things are working out for him, and he seemed to be very chatty. So that was about 3 weeks ago, Barry. So yeah, I'll just keep in touch with him without ringing him every bloody week. I try and catch up with him, and he's quite happy. If anyone who needs his number or wants to ring, get in touch with me, and I'll give it to you.
Get me his number, mate. Please.
Yeah, well, it might. He might be someone that tunes into this. So from us to you, Billy, mate, we hope you go well and fight this thing, and we're all behind you, mate. So
I hope he is, because when I first started Coburg, he was a mascot.
He was.
Billy's one of the ones that didn't play in the final, but around the club, his enthusiasm, his courage, his attack on the ball, was a really important part of what we needed to achieve what we achieved. And he played a big role in creating that.
Can I just let you know, fellas, that throughout the next, hopefully, 12 months with this bloody COVID thing, next year, with our new facility up and running, I'll be going for us having a function at the club where we'll all be able to get to. So I want to keep in touch with you, and you keep in touch with me, and I'll work with Seb, and we'll get our 50th probably going next year as a group. And I think it'll be worth working towards, and we'll have a function of some sort. And,
yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, the first ever function at the brand new facility is going to be that everyone that played for our club is welcome back, but then we'll have definitely a specific 1970 and turn there as well. So
thanks, Tim.
No, absolutely. Any other thoughts or memories that anyone would like to share tonight?
Yeah, when this is all over, I just hope that if anybody's looking for a holiday to get out of Victoria, you can come up and visit us any time up here in Queensland.
Fantastic.
You can get stuff, you asshole.
You won't be able to self-quarantine for 2 weeks, though. That's the only thing.
And fellas, by the way, we need memberships. Don't forget, be a member. Become a member.
100%.
Send me the bill.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for what you've done, mate.
Really appreciate your time.
Well done, Sebastian.
No, thank you very much. It was an idea that Kerion and I said, look, we can't meet in person. This is the next best thing right now, but don't worry, we'll make it up to everyone in person when we can. And no, thank you so much, guys. You know that every one of you are welcome back at the footy club at any time. It's your club as much as it is the current players. So from our current group to you guys, thank you so much for the legacy that you guys leave. And now it's up to the current group to really build on it and go even further. So, yeah, thank you, everyone, and have a great time.